Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. This is CMG Talk. This is Catherine Gallagher, your host. I'm often asked, what's it like? How do you keep your mindset in a positive space? Recently, I was doing a training, and the training was about different things. It was about giving a sense of purpose, a sense of feeling included, a sense of feeling we belong, a sense of well-being, a whole different group of different types of emotions and feelings. And I'm hearing, because of the way it was set up, I like to make my trainings, my presentations as interactive as possible. And suddenly I'm hearing, I was engrossed in the training, I was involving people, I was encouraging people to get involved, and I was hearing somebody talking out loud. And I could hear them talking about what they weren't feeling. I'm not feeling this, I'm not feeling that, this is not happening. And often that's what we do. We find ourselves in our own mindset, our own mind space. People often say to me, how do I keep it positive? How do I keep my head in that space? It's very easy, isn't it? Because our brain is programmed in that way. Our brain defaults to the negative. When I say why does it do that? When I ask clients or when I'm doing coaching work and I say, why do you think that is? Why do you think our brain defaults that way? Some people say, I don't know. Some people say, it's what it does. Some people say, it's survival. It's to protect me. Survival, protect me. We get more of what we feed. If we constantly look at the negative, that's what we're going to get. If you constantly look at that, promote that, foster that, encourage that, then that's what we get. When people say, oh, but it's okay for you, when someone's working at keeping themselves in a better headspace, when somebody is looking at keeping themselves in a better frame of mind, they're choosing to look at things in a different, better way. They're reframing things. And someone says, well, it's all right for you. And the person looks and goes, how do you work that one out? How do you make that conclusion? How do you jump to that conclusion? Unhelpful thinking. Do you not think I'm working at it? Do you not think I have my struggles? Do you not think things are not difficult at times for me? You see, we all have our challenges and struggles. Some people's ways are paved, and they're paved easier, aren't they? Some people are dealt easier cards. They might have things maybe presented to them, given to them. They might be born in to money. People might say money doesn't solve problems. No, but if you have money, then you don't have to struggle to make money. And money gives us freedom. When you haven't got it and you suddenly acquire it, or you have enough to be able to provide a quality of life, you know the difference, don't you? Right? You know what it's like to do without. Anyone that says you don't need money, well, I would say if you're in a society where money does matter, where you're having to buy and purchase or trade, then you need some kind of way of being able to acquire, don't you? Most people use money to do that. Not everyone. If you are in the situation where you are trying to do your best, live your best, and you're trying to get a balance, we often find it, if you've listened to my episode on the pyramids, Abraham Maslow's pyramids, about being person-centered, about wanting to work towards reaching, acquiring our best self, but needing to be able to go through and acquire not just basic needs, but able to function, achieving, acquiring those needs that allow us to be able to foster good relationships and healthier and better ways of living. A good sense of self, self-worth, self-esteem, functioning at that higher level. There are some things that if you don't have to worry about, makes it much easier. We can invest more in ourselves. Would you agree? What do you think? I'm in the business of mental health, and it is a business. When I started counselling, the first thing I was told was, you should never expect to make money. That's the first thing I was told. And I said, but I don't understand that, because it's work, it's my passion, it's my life passion, but I still need to be able to provide. I still need to be able to function. I still need, no, you should never be able to, you should never make a profit. You should never, and well, sure enough, right? Within my field, that's really stuck unless you're an organisation delivering the services. It's very difficult to make any kind of profit. I've had to then look at other ways to be able to not just survive, but to try and be able to thrive in some way as an individual. Because this is my passion. But it's not all of me. There are other things that I do as well. There are people in my life that I value, that are part of who I am, that I need to be able to have time for and be able to make time for, invest with and invest in. We should all be able to make a living and have a quality of life doing so, should we not? Isn't that not what we are doing when we work? When I work with people and they are at a point where they're looking to retire, and I used to work with people that were early ill health retirement, and I used to talk to them about what they were facing to do with their retirement and helping them to plan out their retirement and invest, how they're going to invest in themselves and their well-being. And I used to, and I loved this, right? I used to be the welfare officer, and I used to attend afternoon teas with retirement associations. And people would say to me, how many? And it was about 13 afternoon retirement, associations. I used to go to afternoon teas with them. I loved it, right? And at that point, I was probably in my mid-20s, late 20s, going into my 30s. And I would sit and I'd listen to people and they would tell me, and they were all different ages, right? Some, the youngest was probably in their 20s, because of their circumstances. And the eldest was like 110. And the organisation that I worked for really invested in their staff, and their staff felt a real loyalty, real brand loyalty for the organisation. And whenever I attended, I would be their guest of honour, right? And I'd go around and talk to people. And sometimes I had been the person that helped them go through either retirement or prepare for retirement or ill health retirement or early retirement. And sometimes they had been in these associations for a very long time. And I also managed a benevolent fund. And I would talk to people about their life and their quality of life, and sometimes they would take me aside because of the fact I was a welfare officer counsellor, and they would talk to me sometimes about their issues, their problems, their concerns. And sometimes they would share life experiences with me, and they would give me advice, right? And when I work with clients, I often say to clients, I learn so much from my clients. And I think if as a counsellor, if you don't have that humbleness about you, as well as empathy and compassion, if you feel that you're the expert, you know everything, and your client is there and you're there to teach, I think you really missed the point. As a coach and result coach, and as a teacher, trainer, presenter, I always feel that I have to be open and have that transparency to learn and grow. I love what I do. I'm very passionate about what I do. And when I work with clients, I feel it's a complete privilege to do so. I'm very enthusiastic, you probably tell. I've been doing it for 25 years. I think the minute I lost my enthusiasm and passion for what I do, I'd give it up. I would. Honestly, I would give it up. And as much as, just like everyone else, I have days where I'm like, right, reset, Catherine, come on, get your head together. You need to, you're maybe struggling a bit, but, and I have to give myself a talk. I have to reframe things. I have to change the way I'm thinking or what I'm doing. I'm human. I'm human. And people will say to me, what do you do? And it's my inner voice. It's my self-talk. It's my frame of reference. It's my energy within my body. It's what I say, what I do, how I think. Sometimes I have to stop, put things down, and I have to go back to it. I always have to make sure I'm in the right frame of mind when I'm working with someone, because they deserve that. They deserve to have the best of me. Right? I can't afford to have a bad day when I'm working with someone. Who wants that? Who wants to have a result coach, a therapist, or a trainer that's like, you know what, today's not a great day for me, but you're going to get some kind of me, but not really the best me. You'd be kind of like dropping down, you'd be leaving the door or exiting or whatever, wouldn't you? You'd be like, no, I don't think so. See you later. And you'd be hanging up. You have to be able to be on point. You have to know how to turn things around, reframe things, energize yourself with people, interact with people, pull people in. Even if you have someone on the other end that's like, I don't want to be here. I'm only here. This is just words. I know that the organisation's asked you to do this, but I don't really feel it. And you're like, well, do you know what then? We each have a responsibility. If we're not feeling we're getting what the organisation's saying that they want to deliver, and they plan or they intend or they say they should be delivering, we have a responsibility to challenge that, to speak up and talk up. Otherwise change doesn't happen. We have to take action. If we don't take action, nothing happens. When I talk about equality, equity, diversity, inclusion, they're not just words to me. I mean it. None of us are perfect. All of us make mistakes. It's owning it, isn't it? Learning from it, growing from it. People sometimes judge you for the way you look. We all have biases. I'm small, I'm blonde, I'm pale-skinned, I'm white. People look at me, they'll judge me. They'll judge me for my gender. They'll judge me for, who I am, what I do, what I say, how you talk, the tone you use. People make instant judgments. Yeah? But more people receive what I do, what I say, I think, I'm told, than not. But you can't be liked by everybody. That's how I look at it, right? You can't be liked by everybody. I don't expect to be liked by everybody, but I do expect that people respect, mutually respect. You don't have to agree with someone. We all want to feel there's dignity, respect. You don't have to agree. I think the difference, though, the difference is how we approach. Often I'll say it's not necessarily always what we say, it's how we say it. If you say things in a way that people can engage and interact and they can hear what you're saying, the message is clear. The message is clearer if you say it in a way that somebody's open to receive it. If you come across angry or disgruntled or unhappy, that's what people hear. They hear that feeling, that emotion. It clouds people's judgment. It clouds what the message you're really wanting to get across. Sometimes I watch and I sit back and observe. I sometimes like to watch things that I don't necessarily I like the psychology of it, let me put it that way. I see that sometimes society engages in things that they can switch off, but they don't necessarily see it as their life, but they don't necessarily see it as real life. But the people that are actually there, they're maybe presenting the ideal life, but it's not necessarily their life either. It's not necessarily the best life, it's the ideal life. And it's often unattainable. It's often unattainable, isn't it? And sometimes when you look at things and you look at how things are presented and you're trying to live up to that unattainable expectation, you often feel as if your life somehow isn't good enough, that you're missing out. We often look at what's not okay, what's not working, what we don't have, rather than focusing back on what we have, what we've achieved and where we are. And if things aren't quite what we expected or what we have, then what are we doing about it? Are we working on it? Are we changing it up? Are we being grateful for what we have? Are we appreciating what we do? What we've received? How many times do we give gratitude? Every day I look at what I work really hard for, what I receive, the information that I receive, the referrals I receive, the work that I receive, the fact that I get connections and, the contacts I receive. I'm always really grateful and appreciative of that. I'm told that I get that because I have built rapport, relationships. I have organisations I've worked for and worked with for over 15, some 20 years. But it's about investing. You have to invest, don't you? You have to give to receive back. It's like with trust. You have to be trustworthy to then expect to be trusted, surely. It's like respect. You have to give respect. People often say that to me. Why am I not respected? Why do people not respect me? Why do people not talk to me? Why do people not acknowledge me? Why am I invisible? When I want to feel I belong, am I open to that? Do I look for commonality? Do I look to be open to receiving that? Do I take actions that allow me to then feel included? Are you prepared to do what it takes to have what you want in life? And I'm not inviting people, when I say that, to do things that cause harm to other people. Right? I often say that to people. Are you prepared to do what it takes? But I'm not saying go out there and do something that's going to cause you or someone else harm. I'm asking people, are you prepared to dig deep inside? When people say it's hard, I go, I didn't say it wasn't going to be hard. If you look at people around us that struggle every single day, if you look at what the human spirit is capable of, what adversities our ancestors, our generations before us, people right now that are going through absolute struggles and what they've come through, what they're coming through, what they've dealt with, and the things that we, and it's subjective sometimes, right? But the things that we struggle with sometimes, and we're like, ugh. When other people would love to be able to look outside the window, walk outside the door, send their children to school without fear, would love to be able to open their fridge and have food in it, would love to be able to have money to get on public transport, would love to be able to do certain things. I used to nurse, right? If I had remained in nursing, I'd be a lot better off, let's be real. But if I had remained in nursing, I, would have a different life, but I made different choices that have brought me to where I am. And I have more flexibility. I have more ability to do different things. I have met new people. I have, a different skill sets. I look at things in a different way. I'm not perfect. I'm constantly looking at things. I'm constantly looking at the skill sets that I'm able to do. If I'd remained in nursing, I'd have been fine-tuning and I'd been working on those skills. I think when you come from that kind of background, you never really lose some of those skills, but there's a lot of skills, that I would need to retrain on, right? That never used to be the case, right? But now it is. I would need to go back to retrain. However, there are a lot of skills I still got. And I know that because, I've had experiences over the years where I've had involvement within the healthcare profession, and I've been, involved in certain aspects. And it's very clear that I've still got a lot of knowledge there, but I wouldn't say I was an expert in that field. However, I still know quite a lot about health, right? And I have a great deal of respect for people that work in healthcare. I absolutely do. Do I miss nursing? Yes. Do I regret leaving it? No. I don't believe regret is something for me that I do, because I think that you make choices, you make decisions, whether it's something that you have to do for whatever reason, but you move on, right? And I remember a very wise woman used to tell me that you work with the cards you're dealt, right? In life is there, and you live your life to the fullest that you can. And whether it's how you expected it to be, and people say to me, it's not what I expected life to be. I sometimes think, well, how do we know what life is going to give us in advance? That's always an interesting one. I know I'm kind of going all over the place here, but I'm just kind of reflecting because it's been one of those days. And I wonder, how do we know what life gives us in advance? This is not what I expected my life to be like. It's often a societal thing. We expect things from society. We expected that our upbringing, that we were expected then to have certain things, or We expected that we would, get certain qualifications, or we expected we would have an apprenticeship, or we expected that we would travel, we expected we would settle down, get married and have children, or we would still work, or we often have expectations. But it's often what we want rather than the fact that the choices, our experiences, what happens to us through those choices and decisions that happen. And that leads us through our life's journey, doesn't it? For me, having regrets is like negating the experiences we've had that have led us to where we are. It's like taking a huge rubber duster and then taking that rubber duster to that line of your journey. This is how I visualise it. You might go, what are you talking about, Catherine? But to me, it's like taking this duster and rubbing out half of your life and saying, well, that part I don't like, or that part I regret. And I just think, no, I want all of what I've done. Even the things I look back and I think, yeah, well, it didn't work out, or it wasn't what I thought it would be, or I'm disappointed because maybe I had romanticised, or maybe I thought it was going to be something completely different, or maybe I started and then it turned out that the people that I thought they would be didn't quite work out that way. The opportunities that I had been given the expectation of weren't really quite what they were, right? But then you just think, well, that's life. That's life. Sometimes you meet people, and I've met some people in my life. They might say the same about me, right? But I've met some people in my life that maybe haven't necessarily been the nicest or the kindest, right? And I don't mean just on a day-to-day basis. I've met people that have actively went out to cause serious harm. That's the kind of people I'm talking about. And if they're listening to this, you know who you are. Right? If you're listening to this, you know who you are, right? But when you meet people that do that, that's on them, right? I don't harbour, I don't hold on, I move on. I hold people to account as much as I can do, and then I move forward. Because if you do hold on to anger, I believe, resentment, hurt, try to pursue relentlessly, the only person that really harms is yourself. If you've listened to the episode I put down about letting go, right? Letting go, I think, is one of the wisest things we can do in life if you can learn to let go, to move forward. People sometimes say to me, I wish I could think about this. I wish I could do what you do. Listen, I keep saying, I'm not perfect and I'm not portraying myself to be that way. I'm just saying I think things through, right? And I process things. Sometimes I do think things. Sometimes I can be quite direct sometimes, and people will say that, and it's probably something I have to work on sometimes. But I try to say things in a kind way. But I do hold people accountable, because I think that no one is my harder critic than I am, because I hold myself accountable. And I guess that's why I will, will say things if I think it needs to be said. Because I think that's important in life in general, to challenge things and to challenge in society. Because often people don't, especially the one thing I don't like is injustice. If I see things that are unjust, I try to do what I can. I think the reality is that sometimes, there are people that have the power and have the ability to do more, than you actually feel you're capable of doing. So you're limited to that. So I wonder, with a mindset, and your mindset right now, and where you are, and how you're keeping your mindset in a positive space and what kind of place you are within your mindset. And whether you find that you're able to think about things, to process things, and how you do reset things. Do you write things down? Do you use a diary? Do you talk to yourself out loud? Do you talk to a significant person? You know, it's a friend, a family, a neighbour, a loved one. How do you change your thinking? Do you dance around? Do you listen to music? Do you do what I'm doing? Do podcasting? What do you do to help keep your mind in a good, healthy space? Sometimes people will ruminate. They'll go over things. But they'll sometimes get stuck with that. I'm not sure whether that ever gives a positive outcome if you just constantly keep that script. What we're looking for is to have scripts that allow us to take us to a positive, better place. Mind. When people say it's mind over matter, when people say it's about having healthier mind scripts, it's about being able to look at things in a different, better way for yourself. That is for sure.